Hello there, guys. Welcome back to my channel for the first player ratings when Chelsea are officially one of the 4 best teams in all of Europe. As Chelsea are now through to the Champions League semi-finals after a very late 1-0 defeat to Porto. But as I said pre-game, I didn't really care whether we won or lost as long as we went through. What's the difference whether we win 7-0 today or lose 1-0? At the end of the day, we're through to the semi-finals. And to discuss that, we're joined by 2 very, very special guests. Of course, my partner in crime for these player rating live streams, Mr. CFCPys. First of all, Pys, how you doing?
I'm doing great, to be honest, man. I'm very happy. Obviously, we got through. It was a bit of an annoying game because obviously Porto just tried to make it a dogfight and you know, they really hacked us down and chopped our legs and everything. I mean, everyone is probably battered and bruised after that, but I'm happy, to be fair. We got through and that was the most important thing was just getting the job done.
Exactly. And another very special guest, the first time appearance on a player ratings live stream, Mr. Craigo28 Football. Of course, check out his channel down in the description. Mr. Ian, my good friend. How is that? Champions League semi-finals. How does that sound?
It's all right, isn't it? Not bad, I suppose. It's good. You know, we didn't have to do anything major today, did we? You know, we just had to not concede twice, and we didn't. So, job done. It's great news, and you know, this squad that we've got is a very good squad. It's a very big squad. It's full of talent, and you know, although we didn't necessarily get to see all of it today and all that talent, you know, we're putting ourselves in a position where we can go and show the world what we can do. And as you said, I mean, officially we are now one of the best 4 teams in Europe. So, you know, I don't know if it's quite the accolade we're going for. I mean, let's be honest, we want to win it, but I'll take top 4.
First of all, that, and second of all, we can't possibly have won it yet. So, you know, just because it ain't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. So, you know, that's the positive. Of course, guys, yeah, it would have been better had we not, in the end, conceded that 1-0. My whole idea of, tactical defensive masterclass would have looked better. But, you know, at the end of the day, it worked out. We did what we had to do. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty in the eye today. Let's not kid ourselves. It wasn't pretty in the eye. But did it have to be? No, it didn't have to be. What it had to be today was professional. And you could argue until the 94th minute, it was extremely professional. While Porto tried to pay off the ref after their manager tried to spend this entire press conference talking about how expensive our squad was. Well, we pay money for players. They pay money for referees, because how they didn't get about 17 yellow cards today, I will never know. Like, they had, 20 fouls, and at least half of them must have been tactical. Yet they only had 2 or 3 yellow cards. I do not understand how that works. Would that have changed anything to the result? Maybe not, you know. But still, it was dodgy, especially when I see their manager on the sidelines asking for yellow cards to our players and telling for Tuchel to shut up. And I'm like, no, you know what? He's not even BTEC Simeone. He's just this weird Portuguese Tony that's trying to be Mourinho but can't. So, you know, I wasn't particularly appreciative of him. I was just, you know, slightly pissed off. But, you know, we have to do. And he tried and he failed, I guess. But, Ian, why don't you run us down to what you made of the game other than, you know, we did what we had to do, but it wasn't that pretty. Is there anything extra you have to say?
I still thought we missed big opportunities. I think if we would have got the goal, it's a much simpler, you know, game for us, and maybe we put in a little bit too much effort, bearing in mind we have got a massive game at the weekend. If you'd have scored one of those chances, then brilliant. But I still think the final ball lacks a lot. You know, we had the 2 that instantly spring to my mind. The big one, was something I've said for a while. As much as I love Kante, and we'll come into Kante and the brilliant performance that he had, you know, his strength is not going forward. So at the same time, you look at certain things and go, oh, okay, well, you know, he's really good defensively, but the big chance I'm thinking of is when we've got 4 on 2 plus than the goalkeeper, and Kante passes to his right where he's got one option rather than going to his left where he's got Mount, who's got a tap in, and even Pulisic as well. You know, it's just little things like that. If we go and score that goal, then brilliant. You know, the game looks very different. But also the other one as well, the Chilwell pullback that he just drilled at Pulisic. If you'd have put either of those chances in, you know, we're all sitting here and it's sunshine and rainbows and brilliant. But yeah, no, it would have been a defensive masterclass because we would have just literally parked the bus from there. But yeah, you know, that's something that going forward we can work on. But for right now, I mean, again, we're through. That's the main thing. But certain people in certain positions, or maybe they shouldn't have been, like Kante and Chilwell drilling the ball at Pulisic. It was almost like we were a bit frantic at times, I suppose, is the right word.
Yeah, you could definitely say that. And I made this remark that I felt for a number of years, our forwards, whoever they are, always have this problem in games where they have the ball a lot. The average touch is brilliant. But in games where they don't see that much of the ball and when it kind of like matters, it seems like they somewhat crumble a little bit under that pressure. And it's like then the average touch is just awful half the time. Like Pulisic sorted himself out for the second half in particular. But the rest of the team, like Mount obviously didn't have a bad game as such, but didn't have a very influential game. Like when he didn't make mistakes, he just dropped deep and, sprayed the pass, the ball around without losing it, like as such. And then when he did get into the final third, even he had a slightly off touch at times. In particular, right before that, Chilwell drilling it into Pulisic, if Mount has a better touch, he probably shoots rather than even playing it to Chilwell in the first place. There's been a number of situations like that, but in the end, I know Porto scored that goal later on, and what a goal it was. I kind of hope that he wins the Puskás because that really rivals Ronaldo and Bale for the best ever Champions League goal. Like that was a ridiculous overhead kick.
It's goal of the season in the Champions League, definitely this year.
100%. Like some crazy shit has to happen in the remaining games for that to be topped.
Yeah, exactly.
But at the end of the day, they had two efforts on target. The one first was a fairly comfortable save from Indy, and the second one was in the 94th minute. And when you go into the game 2-0 up, that means you did the job perfectly well now, didn't you? Pys, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's just one of those. I think even Mount said it after the game, when he's doing his interview, they were kind of thinking more about, the end result and not actually about the performance today, which is interesting. So, I mean, I'm a bit annoyed we conceded that goal, but obviously there's nothing really we can do about it. It was unbelievable. I found it funny that Tuchel actually said it was a lucky shot, which is quite funny. I thought that was funny from him, but yeah, I mean,
well, I guess if you think about it, he tries that 100 times, he probably scores it exactly once. So if you argue it like that, maybe it is a lucky shot.
Thank God we scored the second goal in the first leg, because otherwise that would have been very interesting with the way the game was panning out. So, I mean, Porto made it hard for us. They pressed relentlessly for 90 minutes. Every time we tried to go forward, they hacked us down. Pulisic was looking really good with the dribbles, but as I said, every time he tried to go forward, bang, he was on the floor. And thought the ref was really poor as well. I mean, a couple of players could have at least got sent for accumulation of yellows. It was ridiculous for me personally anyway, how little yellows he got. And Pulisic won 11 fouls, which was the most in the Champions League knockout since 2011 for Messi. So, I mean, that just goes to show how many fouls they actually did make and how many fouls he did win. So, I guess we have to be happy. Obviously, never happy that we lose an actual game of football, but overall, yeah, I'm buzzing and also nervous because Real Madrid and Liverpool are going to be two very, very tough opponents. Whatever one we get, obviously.
100%. And someone put it in the chat earlier already. How good will it be to just watch those games tomorrow night? Knowing that we're through, it's about who do we play in the Champions League semi-final. And I haven't really gone on about first time in 7 years much because it's the same stat we already used for the quarterfinal. So it kind of doesn't sound as crazy in my head because I'm like, yeah, I know, but that's just because we haven't. Last time we went this far, we did this quarters and the semis. Well, we haven't since then. So that's why I haven't used it. But still, first time in 7 years, if you want to be one of the European elites, you have to do that a bit more regularly. Although someone in the comments of the Blues Fans TV live review told me that we're the English team with the most Champions League semi-final appearances, with now an 8th time, which is impressive. A bit sad that we only won it once out of those now, 7 in the past, and maybe we'll make it 2 this year. Who knows? But still, it's something. It's something. But yeah, let's just start with those ratings. I'm sure we'll talk through so many other things that we get, sidetracked by. Let's just get it started because otherwise we'll never get it done. Let's talk about Edouard Mendy, who I thought had a very good performance. Did really good by catching a lot of crosses. And obviously, and the one shot on target that he could actually do anything about, and obviously no stopping that over a kick. Obviously had that dodgy pass in the first half. I don't know. It was a weird one to me. I initially thought that because he looked so not even like, oh shit, what did I do? It thought Jorginho was kind of moving in that position, and then Jorginho kind of changed his mind halfway through, ran away, and Mendy passed it there. But then Jorginho made up for it blocking it, which was a really good block by Jorginho, by the way, in terms of what people say Jorginho wasn't just good at passing; he also had a super decisive block in that instance. But yeah, that Mendy had that. But other than that, I thought he had a very good game. So I know Pice never likes to give high ratings to the goalie if he doesn't keep a clean sheet, but I would give him a 7. Nothing outrageous, maybe a 7.5. But obviously that mistake and not crazy amounts to do. But I think a 7.5 would be fair. Ian, what would you think?
I'd probably go 6.5, something like that. The error was a big one. We're just lucky that Jorginho got back and covered it. But I think that shot's on target before Jorginho gets his foot on it. I don't think Mendy's going to get. I don't think Mendy's going to go get back, and if he does, I don't think he's going to be comfortable. So, I think it was bad. I really do think it was a bad mistake. So I'll go for a 6. He did do certain things well, but we couldn't have done anything about the goal. Let's not lie to ourselves.
To be fair, maybe 7.5 is certainly a bit stretching it. Pice, what would you say? Do you think more 6.5, or would you think a 7 would be all right as well?
Well, I mean, to be fair, to get like a 7 or above, you really do need to make a couple of decent saves for me at least. I mean, I was going to give him like a 6.5, but then obviously that pass kind of knocked it down for me a little bit. So I'll probably say a 6. I won't go too low, but obviously we can't really go. I don't think we can go into 7s because he probably had the least to do in the whole game. And when he did have to do something, he'd give the ball away nearly for a goal. So I think I'll go for a 6.
Fair enough. I guess then in the combination of us all, we'll probably go for a 6.5 then, which is fair enough, to be honest. He did make a mistake. But other than that, was pretty good. So that's okay. Azpilicueta then, I touched on off air with Ian already. Or was it with you as well already, Pice? Almost said your real name then. That Chelsea on their Twitter poll of who won man of the match. Let me just get it up again, just to because this still surprised me. I still don't really understand how they came to that conclusion. But regardless, their options were. Let me just scroll down while my computer finally loads. Had Ben Chilwell, Christian Pulisic, Azpilicueta, and N'Golo Kante. I didn't think any of those were man of the match, but we all have our separate opinions, shall we say? Azpilicueta, especially I didn't think was particularly good. I thought him and, not particularly good is a very harsh statement, but him and Thiago Silva both had that moment in the second half where Porto had their first shot on target, where they both just dropped deep, pretty much onto the goal line, where there was no opponents there, and then turned around and were having a go at the midfielders for not covering 3 Porto strikers. I'm like, no, you're the centre backs. This is your job. Don't have a go at other people for not covering those. So that just takes Aspi down by a little bit. But other than that, all 3 of the centre backs were brilliant. Thiago Silva, he just oozes quality and calmness, and just I feel like he relaxes everyone around him, other than against West Brom. But I feel like he relaxes everyone around him, and that helps, especially when the pressure and the stakes are so high as they were today, when in terms of how well we have to defend. So for me, Aspi, you know what? Let me go with you guys first. What would you give Pice, and how would you reason it, shall we say?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think he was as good as the other defenders for me. Maybe a 7. Not too sure really. He was solid, but then again, I don't think he's been as standout as other games. I don't know, a bit of a weird one for me, to be honest. Today for him.
Yeah, it's a tough one, really, isn't it? But I also feel like if we kept that clean sheet, and obviously can you really blame any of the defenders for that kind of goal? I mean, maybe, and you could argue it's probably Aspi because it was on the far side, on Aspi's side, wasn't it? So, but still, if we had the clean sheet, wouldn't we give all of our defenders at least an 8? I don't know. So hence why I would probably be inclined to give Aspi an 8 anyway, and maybe 1 or 2 others I'll give slightly higher than that. I would say an 8. Would you agree with that, Pice? I don't think you gave a rating now, did you?
No, I would have personally given him like a 7 or 7.5 for me. I would give a couple of the other defenders a bit higher.
Fair enough. Ian, what about you? What did you make of Aspi? And then I guess we could touch on the other 2 centre backs as it is as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, clean sheet, and maybe it's a different story. Aspi's great in certain things. He's not great in others. And I remember on a few occasions, I remember even under Conte, when we had him again in the right-hand side of the back 3, if we ever conceded goals at the back post, it was always a height thing towards Dave and Moses. And obviously now it's Dave and Reece James. He's not completely, indestructible as much as I do like him. I'm not going to, I can't blame him for not being taller. to maybe flick it on rather than getting the bicycle kicking. But I think a 7.5 is fine. I think it's very fair.
All right, you're saying 7.5. I would say 8. All right, let's go 7.5 then. But guys, come on, let's get the hype going. In the Champions League semi-finals, we can throw out some high ratings.
They're all 10s. Right. Okay, they're all 10s.
That's a bit of a stretch.
We'll keep Mendy low.
Okay. Let's go to Thiago Silva. Again, had that moment that him and Aspi, I suppose, had together. Other than that, I didn't see either of them doing much wrong, personally. Maybe the goal for obviously that we conceded. I mean, Flyer said here, you could argue also Reece James wasn't quite tight enough, and you could argue it's also the right wing-backs man if he's that far out. But he's also one of the two strikers. To me, that's more of the centre-backs man than a wing-backs man. But it's a difficult one. I'd have to see him back as well, obviously. I don't know. Do we give Thiago that edge higher then? For me, I give Rudiger the highest of the 3 centre backs. For me, I think Rudiger was the highest of the 3 centre backs. Or do we give him the same? I would give Thiago an 8. I would give Thiago an 8, and then I personally give Rudiger an 8.5. I think that would be fair.
I'd probably go 8 and then a 9 for Rudiger personally. I thought it was brilliant. You can make that case.
You can make that case for sure. Pys, what would you think? Would you be okay with an 8 for Silva?
Yeah, I think he was quite solid. To be fair, I agree. Obviously, I think Rudiger was that tad bit better, obviously, because Rudiger had to deal mainly with Marega. He was the one who was, doing all the duels with him and really put him in his place, to be fair. I thought he dealt with that really well. I mean, Marega's a bit of a tank, so, Rudiger is strong, but he's more of a, skinny side kind of build, you know what I mean? So to deal with Marega was... I was really impressed with him, to be fair. And I thought both him and Silva were very, very good on the ball, very composed. Got us out of the press quite well as well, playing the balls to Chilwell down the left-hand side most of the time. So, yeah, I'll be happy to either give them... to be fair, I think Rudiger tad higher, but I think both were brilliant for me anyway.
Yeah, so let's give Thiago that 8. And, Ian, to be honest, I'm somewhat inclined to agree. Someone put it in the chat here already. What was it? Rudiger won every ball that came into the box. Usually, going by what Flyer says, usually when he says something like that, that's an actual stat, not just throwing, statements around. So, with that said, was there really a fight after the game? I didn't personally see it. Can you two comment on this?
Yeah, there was. I left, but there was a bit of a tussle after the game. I wouldn't say it was a fight, but there was a coming together as Porto emotions just run over. It wasn't too deep, but Rudiger, to be fair, was at the centre of it being just a full-on shithouse, and I loved it.
Exactly. Hey, I love it. I love it as well. To be honest, I'd be inclined to give him the 9 as well, to be honest. I think he was very good. I'd give maybe one player a higher rating than that, or a couple of them a similar rating. But I think Rudiger was right up there, certainly. Would you be totally upset with us, Pys, if we gave Rudiger a 9, or would you really push for the 8.5? Because, again, it's obviously a cumulative rating that us three try to hand out.
No, to be fair, I already said I think Rudiger gets just a tad higher because of how well he dealt with Marega. But I think in terms of, if you're doing passing ratings, then obviously I'd give them both the same because I thought they were very good on the ball. But overall game, definitely Rudiger, just a tad higher for me.
Yeah, exactly. Because you said a tad, hence why I wasn't sure whether you'd be really set on that 8.5 and not okay with that 9. But you didn't seem too upset, so let me go with that 9. And ladies and gentlemen, before we now get to the fullbacks, let me remind you to please subscribe. We're on the road to 10,000 subscribers, so get that done. That'd be massively appreciated if you could just go down below, subscribe right now. Ian keeps telling me we just need to hit basically 10,000 subscribers tomorrow. So, to make that happen, all of you guys need to subscribe immediately. Smash the like button as well. As I keep saying, just, helps us push these videos out to more people. New people come in. That's how content creators grow. So smash the like button. Use the super chat function if you want to. Of course, guys, you never have to. But if you want to, support the channel and make sure that I read out your comment, put it on screen and everything. Do use it. Become a member if you fancy that as well. You always see it in the chat as well. You have Strip Bear, Jesters, Melinda, a lot of people, Flyers as well, who are all regular members. So if you want to, become one of those, there's the option in the join button underneath on desktop, or a link in the description if you're on your phone. But let's get to the fullbacks, who I thought were both very good. I was very happy with both of them. I think in the first half, Chilwell stood out, and in the second half, then Reece James stood out. Although you could maybe argue should have done a tad better for the goal, but I think that's stretching it a little bit if we're going to criticize him and deduct points for that, shall we say. But yeah, let's talk about those two. Let's go with who's first in my line here. Is it James? It is James. Let's go with Reece James first. Ian, what did you make of Reece James today?
Yeah, I think it was a pretty middle of the road performance in terms of going forward defensively. Obviously, we almost kept a clean sheet, so it's got to be praised in some capacity. I think it was today. It was the only time where I actually saw Reece James potentially lose a one-on-one battle. I don't think I've ever seen him bossed off the ball, and it happened today. But I think a big part of Reece James's game is there seems to be this reliance on going down the right-hand side, which is a good thing, but also as well, it does also need to kind of fade down. The more opportunities you give a player the ball, especially a defensive-minded player, they can make mistakes and they can lose one-on-one battles and whatever. And obviously, Reece James didn't have a lot, but the fact that I saw the one today, if that happened somewhere else on the pitch, then maybe we're talking about a different story. But again, this is just trying to find small little things to knock him down. For me, I thought he was superb. I don't think he was the same level as a Rudiger or Thiago Silva. But and let's also be honest with ourselves. The shot that he had going forward, the one that I still think Pulisic should have dived at and potentially stabbed home, but certain things could have been better. So for me, if I'm asked for a rating, I'd probably say it would be probably a 7.5, maybe an 8. But I wouldn't go too drastic. I thought it was okay, but I still have a few little worries about him. Nothing from he's doing wrong. I just think people rely on him a little bit too much.
Yeah, that I would agree that people and the teams sometimes rely on him a little bit too much, especially because of how young he is. But that only, in kind of the opposite effect is kind of like a praise for him at the same time, I think. The shot was a weird one to me because it just looked like he wasn't sure whether he should cross up or shoot. And then this weird middle thing of nothing came out. To be honest, I didn't think Pulisic should have even squared it in the first place. I think Pulisic got it in a position in and around the box where he should have gone for the shot. Even if it doesn't go in, you might get a corner, you might get a deflection goal. Do you know what I mean? I think that was a position where he should shoot and not lay it off to Reece James, for me. But yeah, I would give him an 8. I would even be happy to push him to an 8.5. Like I said, I was very happy with him. To be honest, I didn't notice him losing the 1v1. In all honesty, but we can't all see the same things. But Pys, help us find the decision. What rating would you give Reece James? And how happy were you with him today?
I was happy. I wasn't overly gassed. I don't think he had a masterclass by any stretch of the imagination, but I think he played well. I think everyone was quite solid defensively, to be fair, and just I think Reece was really up for the fight today. I mean, he was getting annoyed with some players, which was good to see, and really got annoyed with some Porto players as well, which I always like to see. Good performance, not like amazing going forward, but I think he was solid enough defensively. Again, it's hard to rate him. I'll probably give him like maybe a 7.5, something like that. Nothing too drastic, but I think it was a solid performance from him, to be fair.
7? You guys are being harsh today, I'm telling you. 7? We're into the Champions League semi-finals, boys.
Bro, we didn't win.
I don't
judge it on the actual game, though, haven't we? We've got to judge it on the
but I don't know. I thought they all did. I thought we all did a decent job. Like, just for me, it was a case of we came into the game trying to do exactly what we did. Like, it's not a case of we tried to be offensive and failed at it. We did exactly what we set out to do today, bar the 94th minute. Hence why I don't think we can dish out low ratings because, and someone put it in a chat a minute ago, Reece James wasn't instructed to go forward. So you can't really complain at him for not going forward and therefore give him a lower rating. If he's told not to, then if anything, we should give Tuchel a lower rating for that instruction, not Reece James, because he's just doing what he's told. And I think at what he had to do today, I think he did a very good job. So I don't know. I would honestly have pushed him to an 8.5. So with that said, I think overall it's probably an 8 then. Maybe slightly overruling you a little bit here, guys. I do apologize. I'm sure we'll have the other one where you overrule us a little bit. And then Ben Chilwell, I'm intrigued to hear what you boys have to say about him then, because like I said, I thought in the first half, Chile really stood out. Also in the second half, defensively, I thought it was good. But in the first half, he really stood out in helping Kante and Jorginho alongside Reece James on the other side, getting past Porto whenever we did in midfield and helping deal with it. He ran up and down that wing. He had that one moment where Kante should have just found a much better long ball where he overhit it so drastically, and Chile was sprinting up that pitch to try and give us something going forward. So again, I was very happy with him. I would personally have given them the same rating, but again, I'll go with you guys, Pice. What would you have? Were you happy with Chile? What would you have done?
I was happy with him. There was a couple of times he did get skinned, and then was sort of saved by Rudiger a little bit. Rudiger kind of cleaned up for him, but I think overall his game was quite good, especially going forward. I thought he was better than Reece, especially on the ball, was combining better with players as well. Really tried to push us forward. I know the game plan wasn't, to attack as much as in, try and score goals basically, but we've always got to try and score. So we have to give them some props when we do see good forward play. And I thought he did quite well. I think I would give him an 8, just maybe a little bit higher than James. I thought maybe his just all-round game was a little bit better today, but they were both quite good defensively. So it is tough for me. I'm not going to lie. I have to be interested to see what you guys say as well.
I mean, Flyers has made a fair shout here. One moment that I almost forgot. Literally 30 seconds after I tweeted out in the first half that I thought Jorginho and Chilwell had both been brilliant. Literally 30 seconds after that, Chile misjudged the long ball and, Corona nearly scored. So he had that. I thought overall he was a tad better than Reece James, and then you have that mistake. So I would again give them the same rating and go for an 8. But Ian, I know you'd obviously be maybe that edge lower, but would you give him a bit of a better rating than Reece or the same level?
I think I'd be the same. I'd probably give him a 7.5. Again, the shaky moment, it was just the fact that old JC, Jesus, C word, just didn't manage to blaze it over the bar, but otherwise it might be a very different story. So I think I'd be very happy just giving him a 7.5. I could maybe stretch it to an 8.
Fair enough.
It helps you.
It does help me, because otherwise I feel unfair to Chile not giving him the same rating. Maybe at the end we'll lower them both to 7.5. We'll see. But like I said, I don't think, like, the thing with Thiago Silva is, in all honesty, I know I said he oozed calmness in that, and he did. But I didn't even really see Thiago Silva much in the game. Like, no. I thought Jorginho and Kante dealt with the centre attack so much that Thiago Silva didn't really ever do anything. Like, the only moment I noticed him really was when him and Aspi left 3 men alone in the box. So to me, it's almost we rated Thiago maybe that edge too highly, but not because he did anything wrong, but just I didn't see him do that much great. But in a sense, for a centre-back that is doing things great, hence why I'm not sure, but I feel like it would be harsh to rate James and Chile lower than him, which is kind of why I'm so pushing for that 8, if that makes sense.
Fair enough.
But yeah, let's get to my man of the match on the day. I thought he was absolutely brilliant. I don't know if anyone has stats, whether it's you, Pice, or whether it's people in the chat. Drop us some stats. I saw that he completed 20 more passes than any other Chelsea player. He was involved in 23 duels. He regained possession 11 times. And today was one of those games for Jorginho, today was one of those games for people that really don't rate him, were like, yeah, I didn't think he even could do that. He was not afraid to get into physical duels. He was, bossing people around. And when he ran into, Jesus, whatever his name on the back of his shirt is, shoulder first, the man was lying on the floor for half an hour pretending to have died, as Porto players did over the last week. And he was getting stuck in. He was one time in the first half, I thought he was somewhat fortunate to not get a yellow card. But other than that, he got stuck in tackles. He won the ball back consistently. He was the only player on the pitch today who I was actually happy with this passing. Like, no other player I thought had good passing today. He was the only guy where I thought you had consistently good passing. Of course, he didn't complete every single pass, but, that'd be weird if he did, especially when we just, half the time, he just had to play it long. And then Havertz was in an aerial duel against Pepe. Well, are we going to blame Jorginho for that pass being incomplete? I don't know. But I would honestly, I know for you, Rudiger was man of the match, Ian. I would honestly give Jorginho a 9.5. I don't think he could have done much better in his position. He was the DM. He was the more sitting of the 2 midfielders. So he's not exactly supposed to create big chances in that role. And I think everything he was meant to do today did nearly perfectly well, honestly. I was very happy with him. If you're going to lower me down to a 9, I'll be okay with that, as long as he's the joint highest rated. But, Pice, what did you make of Jorginho today?
I thought it was amazing. Like you said, I do have a stat here. It's Jorginho's 8 tackles was the most by a Chelsea player in a Champions League game since Kante versus Barcelona in 2018. And we all remember what a masterclass that was from Kante in that particular game. Mm-hmm. So, very good stat there. And also the ones you mentioned as well. And again, as I just said to you like the other day as well, like whenever anyone like shits on Jorginho and Kovacic, they just end up coming back and playing amazing. Like the next game, I swear to you, they just do. Like I don't know, it just seems to prove people wrong time and time again. I mean, yeah, it was very, very good today. I would have him 9.5 maybe as well. But again, I also do want another joint rating for one other player, so I'll give him the same rating. But yeah, Jorginho, I do agree with you. I'll give him a really high rating for today. 100% controlled the midfield, just completely bossed them as well. Thought he dealt with their press really well as well. Winning fouls, especially. People don't really associate Jorginho with winning fouls because, you know, he's kind of like slow to turn and stuff. But thought he was really, you know, aware of Porto's whereabouts and yeah, just really intelligent performance.
Fair enough. I think that's a pretty good assessment. Ian, how far, because obviously you at the start said Rudiger was your man of the match, how far off would you have put Jorginho with that? Or would you have given them the same rating, but Rudiger in your head, man of the match regardless, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I'd probably give Jorginho a 9, so it'd be very close. Maybe for me, I just love the defensive side of the game and how well Rudiger did it, and just the madness that he caused, which is probably why I back him a little bit more. You know, I've been very public and open about my criticisms of Jorginho. I'm not his greatest fan and whatever. I can completely understand the role that he does. You know, that today, from what I saw from him, was a £55 million player. It's just a little bit annoying that sometimes you don't get to see that every single week. And although of course it's impossible to keep it up every single week, I'd like to see that a little bit more. But I mean, that's a much bigger thing. But basing it purely off today, he was superb. He puts a foot in. I think he's a bit slow, but again, he was one that made the recovery from Mendy's absolutely amazing fuckery of a pass. So, you know, you've got to give credit to it. You know, it's quick thinking. He's on his toes and he's getting a foot in. Fair play. Yeah, again, I'm not Jorginho's biggest lover, but purely based on today, he has to be up there for a 9. I would probably give Rudiger the man of the match award, so I wouldn't give him a 9.5, but I feel I'm going to be overrated, or overruled. That's what I'd say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a 2v1 situation. But I totally, like, you know, you're not sat here saying, oh, Jorginho was a 7 or something. Like,
no,
like,
God, no, Jesus, no. That's ridiculous.
Exactly. So, like, we're not far off each other here. But next one is, I think, one of the most, not necessarily controversial ones, but one where I'm least sure what to rate him as, because Kante, in terms of winning the ball back, did a really good job. I think he regained possession maybe 1 or 2. Did he regain it more times than Jorginho? I think at some point in the game he had more, but I think by the end, Jorginho might have had more. I don't know. But Kante was good in that sense. But because he was the more attacking of the two CMs, and then he had those 2 moments in the final third where he just really, like that moment where he put it to the right to Havertz, when literally 3 Porto defenders were on that side, while Mount and Pulisic were basically completely free to his left with a fairly easy pass as well. And arguably an easier pass, because with the inside of your boot, it's always easier to pass than with the outside of it. And he passed with the right foot anyway. So that triggered me. As much as he was really good defensively, if you're the more offensive of the 2 centre mids, and he was in and around the box often, I don't know. I'd be intrigued to hear what you guys have to rate Kante, because I'm really struggling to really decide, to be honest. Pies, let me go with you first. What did you make of Kante, and what rating would you give him? Because again, I've really struggled to put my finger on what I would like to give him.
Yeah, I mean, an interesting one, because, like, as you mentioned, in terms of like being in midfield, what we needed today, I thought he did really well in terms of like intercepting and just doing what he usually does, to be honest, like just hustling Porto and just trying to win the ball back, being on them. His energy and intensity was very much needed in this game. But as you mentioned, him going forward, I just didn't lift his head up. Like, me and my brother were shouting at the TV, like, pass left, pass to Mount. Like, he's like glitching in, like it's a one-on-one, and he didn't put his head up and played it to the right, which was just so annoying, because I'm sorry, I'm backing Mount to finish that. Like, 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Been on. Mm-hmm. So that for me was just like, oh my God, like that infuriated me. But yeah, just hard. Definitely not as good as Jorginho, but I think, you know what, I'm gonna leave it up to you guys before I decide, because I'm gonna have a close look at the stats as well, just because I'm quite interested in that. So I'll let you guys talk for a little bit first.
It's a difficult one. Ian, you let me know. Because, like I said, when I see the ratings we've given out so far, James and Chilwell with 8, Rudiger with a 9, Silva with an 8, Aspie with a 7.5. I don't see how I could give him higher than 7.5, to be honest. Like, obviously, you kind of split the performance. Like, defensively, very good, but offensively, he was actually told to get forward, unlike Reece and Chile. But then he didn't do a good job there, if that makes sense. It feels harsh because he was still good in doing the defensive job. But if you're there, and we are critical of Kovacic sometimes not finding that decisive pass, not finding that decisive shot, and if they play the same role, we have to be equally as critical of it with Kante, I think. But what would you rate him as?
I think it's 7.5, honestly. Again, he does the defensive side really well, but this is my one major criticism of Kante is the fact that, I didn't love him when he was playing in that attacking role with Sarri because of the final ball, because it was never good enough. And I'm still seeing the same thing. Maybe I'm going, people are probably sitting there going, well, I'm being a bit harsh and whatever. But the realism is, let's be completely honest with ourselves. The realism is that if Kante would have passed left to either Pulisic or Mount, take your pick, we're then 3-0 up, and the game is done. The game is done.
That is a big deduction of points, but it is.
That's it. Because as much as we conceded the goal at the end, Taremi, if he was brought on earlier, maybe he does that with 5 minutes to go, and then the last 5 minutes is an absolute panic. 3-0, game's done. Game's finished. I don't care. They're going to score twice. The game is done. I like Kante. I like him a lot. I really do. But I can't. You can't ignore how big of a pass that was that he simply didn't get right. There's multiple occasions. That is the biggest one. But again, fair play to him. He won the ball high up the pitch. It was a long lump pass forward. I can't remember who he was up against. Or maybe he dribbled it forward and lost it, but won it back again. He does stuff amazing, but big moments, big opportunities, didn't take it. So for me, I'd probably go for a 7.5.
Fair enough. Pys, now that we've both kind of thrown out the 7.5, do you have any stats for us? And before I let you say that, I really agree with Emil here saying, Emil, I'm not quite sure how you like your name pronounced, because the surname is English, but the first name sounds Scandinavian or German. Anyway, saying I feel like he kept losing the ball, winning the ball, losing it, winning it in an infinite loop, and that's what Kante was today. There was this one moment in the first half where he got the ball, had a stupid pass to lose it, and then did incredible to win it back, and then a stupid pass to lose it again, and then won it back again. I was like, You're such a confusing player in my head. Danish, well, close enough, Scandinavian then. But Pys, any stats, and what would you rate him?
Yeah, I mean, they're not looking too good, to be honest, taking a closer look. Again, I am comparing him to Jorginho, obviously, because they did play next to each other. So, I mean, yeah, in terms of ground, there's different type of duels, obviously aerial duels and ground duels. Ground duels won. I mean, Jorginho was 12 out of 19. Kante was only 4 out of 11. Jorginho won 3 more fouls. So again, Kante, to be fair, Jorginho lost more possession, but only twice more. But in terms of interceptions, Kante made 0 interceptions, which to be fair, I thought he made a few, but obviously clearly not. So yeah, I mean, Jorginho 8 tackles, Kante 2. Kante dribbled past 4, Jorginho only 3. So I mean, it's an interesting comparison. It definitely wasn't one of his top games, to be honest. And again, I think what you guys mentioned there, obviously, with the pass and how significant that could have been, I think we do have to drop him down to lower than Aspie at least. I think 7, 6.5, something like that.
Yeah, it's a tough one because I still think sometimes stats are a bit deceiving because the stats don't tell you how many times he picked up a loose ball because he's the quickest to get there. And that's one of the big things that Kante does, and no stats ever pick up on that. Because there's no picked up a loose ball stat. That doesn't really exist, right? And he did that really well, and he's important to do that, and he gives you that pace and the energy midfield that even Kovacic doesn't provide defensively. Well, I say even. Kovacic has a bit more pace than, obviously has more pace than Jorginho, but not that type of pace, if I shall say, and that type of energy than Kante. Like I said, I wasn't initially totally agreeing with the Aspie 7.5. I just felt Kante was a little bit worse than Aspie, but I'd be okay with a 7.5. I'd be okay with a 7. I'd be okay with both of those. I mean, Python said 6.5, 7. You said 7.5, 7. I'm on the same verge. Do we do 7.25 or like what do we do?
I think it's got to be lower than that, to be honest with you. I think he doesn't get any higher than a 7 for me.
Yeah, I think a 7's fair.
That is fair enough. I know it looks harsh now, but we'll get to players that are rated in it a little bit lower now. Not necessarily solely down to their fault, but it won't look as bad by the end. I will also say this and give Kante that edge of credit. Obviously, he wasn't 100%, and we knew that. And if Kovacic was fit today, and I'll touch on him in a second, Kante would have either not even started and certainly not played the full game. So we have to give Kante a little bit of leeway for that. But also, we judge on how he played. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, he played and we judge how he performed. We don't judge, are you injured or not? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if you want to go like that, Cahill and David Luiz played the Champions League final with a torn hamstring, both of them. Do you know what I mean? Like, and they still both got like 12 out of 10 performances. Do you know what I mean? Like, obviously midfield is a bit different, and there was this one sprint in the first half where Kante did really well actually to kind of turn the defender before he squared. Before that, Reece James half shot, half cross actually, and Kante went on that sprint of like 50 yards, and I was like, please don't. I was just looking like I was already fearing that he was going to go down and holding his hammy. I was petrified of it. But I will give him that credit to guys asking about Kovacic. We don't really know what the situation is. We only heard yesterday from that Sky Sports journalist that he was out of the game and that it was an injury. People have been said it's a hamstring problem, but Tuchel said pre-game that it's a small hamstring problem. Christensen had a small hamstring problem for Palace and was already back in the squad today. So by that logic, who knows, right? He could be on the bench for City. He could be back for Brighton. Who knows? It could be a couple of weeks. I just hope it's not long. And in hindsight, I'm sure Tuchel was, not happy with himself for not even taking Billy Gilmore, because in hindsight, we would have certainly wanted to have a CM on the bench. Whether he would have brought him on or not, who knows? But had we gotten a sending off, had we gotten an injury, you would have wanted a proper CM on the bench. Of course, maybe he would have just put Christensen or Zuma on for them, pushed Aspie to right wing back and Reece James to the midfield. We would have found a solution, but it still would have been ideal to have a proper CM in there. And I know James has played CDM plenty of times in his career, but hasn't done so for 2 years now. So you can't just chuck him in there and expect him to be brilliant. Do you know what I mean? So that's my outlook on this one. But now let's get to the front three, which are a very difficult bunch to rate, really, because they didn't get that much service. There was a 10-15 minute spell in the second half where we had control, where we were dominating, where we were pushing into their half, and we had the moment of the Pulisic chance after Chilwell whizzed it into him, and we had a couple of moments, but just there, really. But ladies and gentlemen, by the way, just quickly, we have 265 people watching. Big ups to all of you guys for that. Get subscribed if you haven't already. That would honestly mean the world to me, to us. I'm just gonna put Python and Ian under the same umbrella, blanket, whatever the term is. We want to hit 10,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So get subscribed. Honestly, be brilliant. And if you don't have a Google account yet, and that's your excuse for not being subscribed, make one. It takes like 30 seconds. It's 2021. You need a Google account. Otherwise, life don't work anyway. So do that. Smash the like button, because we definitely don't have anywhere near enough likes, considering we have 260 people watching. We only have 71 likes. Let's get at least 100 likes right now. You can all do that right now. Just go down below, click that like button, and let's get that done. And of course, if you fancy it, do use the super chat function. But let's get to Mason Mount, who had first of all, he looked very unhappy for being subbed off, but I wasn't sure whether he was having a go at one of the Porto players and just a bit of a back and forth, or whether he was not happy with being subbed off. I don't know. He had an average performance. I don't know. Like I touched on it, the one time he could have done something offensive, real significant, he had a heavy touch, and then that's why he had to play it out to Chile, who then crossed it to Pulisic. He had 2 shots, which were both blocked, but great blocks from the defenders. I'm not going to complain about much for those. I don't know. 7, 6.5.
Oh.
You're going to get lower or higher?
Lower. Okay. I'm Mason Mount's biggest fan, but the simple matter of the fact is he didn't have any impact in the game, really. To be fair,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Fair play at the geezer, but for me, I'd probably give him a 6. It's just didn't really do a great deal. Not necessarily his fault because, again, the game plan was what it was. But, bar the 2 chances that he really had where he could have done something, both got blocked out reasonably. Again, maybe the pass to from Kante to him makes him boost up the leaderboard a little bit, but he didn't really do anything of mass importance in the game. He pressed well, to be fair at times, but
As he does,
the press was more coming from them than it was coming from us. So I wouldn't be massively inclined to give him anything more than a 6.5. I think it's to say that he was on the same level as a Kante, who I thought actually did have a semi-reasonable game.
Yeah, we gave him a 7. That's still a good rating.
Yeah, I just wouldn't say that Mount was better or good as or better than Kante.
Yeah, it's why I find it super difficult to judge them is because I'm not sure how much blame for not being more impactful on the game I give them. Do you know what I mean? Like, how much is it? Usually you only say that for strikers. He didn't get any service. But today that was kind of the case for all the front three. You could argue Pulisic kind of changed that outlook for everybody late in the second half or as the second half went on. I'd be okay with 6.5, even a 6, but I think 6.5 is okay because he still had good moments and he was still, in terms of actually goals scoring chances, he still had more than any of the other 2. So,
yes.
Do you know what I mean? But, Pies, what would you say?
Yeah, to be honest, I agree with you, Sam. The only one who really did anything significant in the game was Pulisic, who I thought had an outstanding game in terms of all the fouls he won and just the way just relieved pressure off us as well. But in terms of Mount, he did have a couple of chances. One was blocked, and obviously quite unlucky that he didn't get that pass from Kante because I think he would have scored. So I think I'll give him a 6.5, and then we'll go on to the next guy, obviously.
Exactly. I think 6.5 is fair. It's not awful either, but I think he'll say himself that it wasn't like his best performance. And hey, he's been so good for so many months now. You can't be perfect every week now, can you? That would be harsh. And Pulisic is one of, I think we're going to have a bit of a debate, you and me here, Pies. I'm not sure what Ian feels because, like Flyers says here, he won a lot of fouls and he did great and he worked his bloody socks off and got battered left, right, and centre. And the referee should have protected him much more. But I know Ian said earlier, Chilwell hit that ball too hard. I think could have done a diving header. That's why he put so much power on it. I think Chilwell probably tried to get that a bit higher off the ground than he did. Otherwise, he probably doesn't give it quite so much power. I know it was at an awkward height, but I still think he could have adjusted his body better. And that's the biggest chance to score we had today. And I think he should have done better. Obviously, he gets the highest rating of the front 3, but I don't think he should be anywhere near Jorginho, personally. But let me go with you first, Ian, and then we go to the positivity of Pies after.
Great work, great energy, fair play, winning a lot of fouls. Didn't score, obviously, again, partly due to the way that we were playing and whatever. I think it's probably unfair in terms of previous weeks and different things and ratings overall if you really gave him like a 9 when he was not on the score sheet just because he ran around a bit and won a couple of fouls. But, it's just the context. It's the context that goes with it. Obviously, we know what he did for the team today, and it was superb. But I think an 8 is just very fair. He was good. Wasn't up here. He was up here in terms of winning fouls, but he was also, middle of the road doing other things as well. The chance at the end, I'm not going to go too much into. Maybe I'd like to have seen him done better. Maybe he could have let it run past him and take the goalkeeper on with his left foot. I don't know, but I think probably an 8 would just be, it's still a decent performance from him, but not like world class, best ever time I've seen Jorginho play. So I think again, an 8 would probably be reasonable.
Yeah, first of all, I agree on that. Second of all, this is probably the comment of the day because yes, thank you, because at least someone that was playing on the left wing was actually capable of doing that, or right wing, but actually driving the ball up, winning fouls, not just losing it with every touch he has. Do you know what I mean? So I would probably be inclined to go for an 8, maybe an 8.5, because again, I think he was very good, but I think Jorginho was just outstandingly good, and I know Pies is going to edge, Pulisic in the same realms as Jorginho. But what rating would you have given Pulisic then, Pies? Hit us.
I'll give him an 8.5, just because we did give Chilwell an 8, and I'm just looking at that, and I think, to be fair, Pulisic was more influential than Chilwell in this game, going forward and winning fouls. And I mean, I know you said it was only a couple of fouls in, but I mean,
you're right. Yeah,
until like 2011, like that is a hell of a lot of Champions League games where like that is pretty impressive. And it's one thing to win fouls, but obviously it's the anticipation and the way he's dribbling, getting away from the players as well. So I won't go. To be fair, I do agree with you in terms of obviously maybe he should have done better at the end, and it wasn't really the best of his game. So I think maybe 9 is a bit too high, but I think 8.5, just because I do still think he was really influential for us tonight.
Yeah, to be honest, like I think that's fair. I don't even necessarily want to compare it to Chilwell, because it's difficult to say, he was more influential, because I mean, Chilwell was influential in terms of us not conceding earlier, which was more important in us making the semi-finals on this day with how our tactics and our strategy was for today's game. So I don't think I painted it like that, but I do still see that Pulisic drawing that many fouls just gave us a lot of time in the second half and slowed the game down and was important. I mean, a lot of those should have been yellow cards, and you never know, by the end they might have even had a man sent off if the referee did his job good today. So he did a good job, to be fair. And don't be too literal with what Ian said. He didn't mean 2 fouls. He didn't mean 4 fouls. He meant, don't worry. Don't twist his words. He meant it fine. Don't worry. I mean, he still rated him an 8, right? Calm down. I think 8.5 would actually be fair, just because we gave James, Chile, and Silva an 8. I think to give him that edge higher than them would be okay. Would you be all right with that, Ian, as well, or would you actually put him on the same level as those guys?
No, 8.5's fine. I mean, my dad said he would be man of the match in his opinion. So, again, it's just a matter of perspective. I think 8.5's fair.
Wait, who said that?
My dad.
Oh, fair enough. Be of your dad. Don't know your dad, but be of your dad. And then we get to Kai Havertz too. Sorry?
You must have met him, I'm sure. He's
the
ginger one.
Bro, when I go to England, I meet so many ginger people. We'll talk about that after Euro Wars. We'll get into that discussion. Obviously, I think myself and Pice might have discussed it previously, but to get into the discussion with Ian, Kai Havertz was another weird one today. I think he had the most difficult job of the front three. I will say that, because he was the highest up, and he was the one in the consistent duels with Mbemba and Pepe, which is by far the most difficult one. So I would be inclined to give him the same rating as Mason, just because I think he had the more difficult job than Mason, if that makes sense, because it feels harsh to give him lower just because his job was so difficult. And again, I mean, I didn't think we should have started that front three today, especially we saw how uninfluential they were able to be anyway, and now they're just tired for City. So I didn't necessarily agree with those decisions personally, and it didn't pay off either, you could argue. So I would give him the same rating as Mason. I think that would be fair. Let me go with you first, Pi. So would you even give him a higher rating than Mason? Who knows? What do you think?
No, I would give him the same rating. And just on what you said there, I do agree. I would have played, personally for me, I would have played Giroud tonight just because of the physicality. And our only route in the first leg pretty much was to go long. And what did we do today every time we was put under pressure? We just went bloody long. We just went up to Havertz, and he is tall, but he's not got as much physical presence of Giroud. And, we didn't really cross the ball into the box, which annoyed me as well. So, I mean, whether you play Giroud or Havertz, that's going to be a con, because no one bloody even tried to. We just didn't try to score, in my opinion, today. Every time we went forward, we just didn't try to score. It was more about just keeping the ball, winning fouls, just get the job done, and fair play. But then again, I don't think if that's the game plan, then you can't really fault the attackers too much, because the game plan was not really to get the attackers involved, by sounds of it, which sounds stupid because it's football and you want to win, but that seems to be the game plan, was defence first, and that's what Mount said. It was defence first, defence, over attack today. So very harsh to give Havertz a really low rating, so I will give him the same as Mount, and just annoyed me today a bit, to be fair. I feel like we could have just rested him for City. I think, I don't know whether he's going to play now or not. I'm not sure what players will recover in time, what players are going to be 100%. And as I said to you as well, I would have played a completely different front three, maybe apart from Mount. I would have probably played like Hudson-Odoi, Giroud and Mount or something, and then had that fresh front three to go into City, because I really think City's a huge game. I think if we beat City, I think we win the FA Cup. It's as simple as that. So, yeah, difference in opinions, I guess, maybe, but I just wouldn't have played Havertz at all today, and I'm not going to give him a low rating because I just think there's context to it, to be honest.
100%. Yeah, I would be inclined to agree. Ian, would you be okay with giving him the same rating, or would you give him a lower rating than Mason?
Yeah, I mean, I said Mason 6 or a 6.5, and I'd say Kai same thing. Mason same thing as a 6.5. You know, just didn't really do anything, but not his fault. You know, just the way football is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we'll get to like the kind of lineup decisions as we get to Thomas Tuchel's rating at the very end. And the thing we should probably discuss now, because a lot of people have asked us to discuss this earlier, as we get to the substitutions, is the lack of substitutions today. I mean, Tuchel in the Premier League keeps going on about, oh, it's difficult when you only have 3 subs, and then you have 5 and use 2, and one of them in the 92nd minute and the other one in the 86th, which I thought was weird. I thought especially Pulisic. I know he was helping us a lot in the second half, but I thought with his injury record, I was surprised that he started in the first place, and then I was even more surprised that he kept playing, and then he played the full 90, which I thought was just, to be honest, ludicrous. So I didn't like that we only made 2 subs. I think we could have made the Giroud sub an edge earlier. I know people will say, oh, 2 minutes after Giroud came on, we conceded. Well, that had nothing to do with it. We could have brought Ziyech on earlier. Could have brought Callum on earlier. If you wanted a similar type player to Pulisic, bring Callum on. He does similar things at the end of the day. Maybe not quite as dynamic in terms of taking people on the dribble, but regardless. So I didn't like that. But what you're going to give them, I mean, Giroud doesn't get a rating, let's be honest. And Ziyech, I mean, I didn't really notice him either, to be honest. I'm inclined to not give him a rating either. I mean, they both had how much injury time did we have? 4 minutes. So Ziyech was on the pitch for 8, and Giroud was on the pitch for 2. I don't really know. Do we give either of them a rating, Pys?
I mean, you could just give a rating for Ziyech's pass because that was very, very good outside of the foot to Pulisic. But other than that, I mean, you really can't. No, it was they were on for very little time. So
yeah, it's a weird one because if we rate them, you can't give Ziyech anything higher than a 6 because he didn't do anything. But at the same time, it feels a bit harsh to give him a 6 because it's like you didn't even have the chance to do anything. So
he played a really good pass, though, Laurenz. Did you see it?
He did play one really good pass. That's true. But if we're given ratings for one really good pass, then I don't know.
No, I'm not saying we should. But like you said, he didn't do anything, which is technically not true because he did play that really good ball. So
I will say this: whenever it's the last few minutes, because I'm preparing like the streams and stuff, I am less concentrated on the game. So yeah, I do admit that. But like it's like I can't do 50 things at once. I'm not a woman.
I'll send it to you.
Do that. Please do. But Ian, would you give Ziyech a rating? Is that pass enough for you to give him a rating?
No, nothing happened. You know, the subs were so late, but you know, a big part of that as well also was due to how they played the game. You know, they left their subs late. They were going for we're going to go and grab 2 goals in the last 20 minutes. But to be fair to Thomas Tuchel, he had a game plan, which is we're going to defend. We're just going to keep the ball. We're going to play the ball around. And if we can score, then great. But we're going to keep possession and you know, have confidence in our defenders. So as much as we're saying, oh, maybe we'd like to have seen such and such earlier or this substitution or that substitution, you can't really fault him because, I mean, he did win the game and, you know, we kept to the game plan. So if you've got the people on the pitch that you feel are in the best position to do that, then fair play. You know, Mount and Havertz, I probably would have just wrapped them up in bubble wrap a little bit earlier, maybe. But, you know, again, we did win the game. You know, for me, I probably would have brought off Pulisic and put on Werner just for the pure pace. But you had to wait for them to move. That was the thing. And they didn't move for a lot longer than what probably would be more accustomed to in England, shall we say. And also they moved a lot later than Atletico did, for example.
That is true. That is true. I mean, to be honest, and I'll ask you that, guys, this now. Is this the one shot on target situation we had? Is this just the moment that I completely missed? The comment on screen? Because I have no recollection of this.
I don't think it was on target. But
because we had one shot on target, and I don't know which shot that was meant to have been. Unless you count one of Mason's shots that got blocked as on target, but I don't think you would.
Might have done, to be fair. Might have done. I don't know. I can't think.
I don't know either. Like I see, definitely to go back to the ratings for the subs. I definitely see what Pys is saying is that Ziyech did a good thing there, but I don't think it's necessarily bad on him if we give him an NA, because for one good pass, okay, then he gets a 6.5, but I don't know. That the 6.5 makes it sound like he didn't really do much and like that in a bad way. I mean, I almost tried to paint it as he wasn't given enough time to do anything good, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Hence why I would give them that. Would you be okay with that then? Or what rating would you give CS? Just to inform us, please.
No, to be fair, I was happy with like giving him like an NA because obviously he didn't really play much. I was just like mentioning the pass in case anyone forgot, because that was really good.
Oh, that is fair then. All right, let's do that, and then let's get to Thomas Tuchel and let's discuss, our kind of qualms that we have with the lineup, maybe, because I expected us to approach the game like that when he said in the press conference, "Oh, we're gonna attack the game as if it was 0-0 or whatever." That was always a lie. That's a typical managerial phrase in a press conference ahead of a second leg. Every manager says that. No manager means it. Doesn't matter whether you're Mourinho, Pep, or Tuchel, or whoever else in the world. If you win 2-0 in the first leg, you're going to be a bit more pragmatic in the second leg. And so it would be. And you can't even just say that. We touched on it earlier already. If Kante plays it to Mount or Pulisic, we go 1-0 up and no one says, "Oh, we were just defensive and didn't even try to score." Do you know what I mean? Like, you can paint it both ways. You could argue we played the exact same way as we did last week. Just they didn't make the one mistake for Chile's goal, and we didn't have the one moment of magic of Mason's goal. Other than that, it was pretty much the same thing. Just instead, they had the moment of magic just thankfully very late in the game. So, and in terms of front three, I just wasn't happy with it. I don't think we should have started Pulisic. I know he was good, but okay, he didn't seem to have picked up an injury. Fine. But I wanted that front three against City because I think against City, that could have been influential. And now I'm like, Mount is probably capable of it, but I'm not sure whether Havertz and Pulisic will be physically able and, fit enough and sharp enough to do much against City. And that's the front three I think would have been best suited to play against City and with how they play and everything. So I wasn't 100% happy with that. Obviously, we can't really criticize much else of the lineup because Kovacic wasn't available. So what else are you going to do? I'm happy he didn't play Alonso. I'm happy he didn't play Hudson-Odoi as wing back. And whether it's Christensen or Thiago Silva, I wouldn't have minded, but he said Christensen wasn't fit to start. So there's not much I can say, but I wasn't very happy with the front three and I wasn't very happy with the subs, but we still made the semi-finals. So I would give Thomas Tuchel an 8, is what I would say.
Very fair.
Fair. Pies, what about you?
I think that's fair. I do agree with your assessment, to be fair. Front three and subs really annoyed me, especially the subs. I was just like, I agree, like someone else said it, just bring Werner on, especially not only because of the pace, but the pressing as well. Like, he really does press as well. Maybe, well, not maybe, he does have his problems in the final third, but in terms of pressing, he's really, really good. And I would have brought Werner on. I would have took Havertz on even like 60 minutes and just brought Giroud on, honestly, for the physicality. I said at half time, if Pepe wants a fight, just bring Giroud on, and just make it a physical contest. Because really, it was a mismatch, and I didn't like Havertz in the first leg. I don't think it's his type of game. He didn't get on the ball much. It's not his fault. So I definitely had a problem with that. But at the end of the day, we had a game plan. We defended really well, and we got what's needed, which is through to the semi-finals. So let's hope that we can perform in a semi this weekend against City, because massive game. And to be honest, I'm just worried about the front three. Like, I would have loved to see this front three against City. So I don't know, is Werner going to start now? I mean, God help us if he does, because I don't know, man. Like, me and Laurenz, we have issues with Werner. So I don't know, man. I'm just a bit disappointed that he didn't change the front three up. And I know it's hard, obviously. You win 4-1, you want to keep momentum. So I can see his point of view, maybe, if that's why he's done it. But at the same time, you've got a huge game at the weekend as well. So, and I do trust Hudson-Odoi and Giroud to come in and play well. So I don't know. It is what it is, I guess. Yeah,
it is what it is. But can't exactly be too, unhappy. Obviously, maybe after the Saturday game, we'll say, if only we played a different front three on Tuesday. But hey, win the Champions League semi-finals. I don't think we can be sat out here criticizing our managers for his selection when we qualify for the Champions League semi-finals. At the end of the day, he did a good job. I just watched the clip of Ziyech's outside of the boot pass. It was a very good pass. Do you remember it, Ian, or do you want me to?
Yeah, I remember it.
Okay, it was a very good pass, to be fair, and I'm inclined to think that was probably the shot on target because it was a goalie save, and usually they prefer to count shots that the goalie saves, even if it's far in the box. They usually count that more as saves as if it's blocked by the defender. Then it's just a block. When it's the goalie, it's a save. Hence why shot on target. Yeah. But hey ho, now we've done all the ratings. All the starters actually didn't give this subs any ratings, but still, and the manager. Two more things that should probably be discussed. First of all, the other match of the night, where PSG lost 1-0 to Bayern Munich, similar to ourselves, but still managed to go through on away goals, obviously winning the first leg 3-2 in Munich. It was actually very funny. I only put on the stream of that game for like 10 minutes. And literally, as I put it on, Neymar hit the post, and 45 seconds later, Bayern Munich make it 1-0. So that didn't go well for them. I didn't see anything else of the game. In terms of if we rate Porto's manager, unless Taremi wasn't fit, which would be so news to me, the fact that he didn't play was clearly a bit of an L for Mr. Conceição. But, interesting. What do you make of PSG making it past Bayern? Obviously, Bayern had so many injuries. I'm very confident in saying if they only had Lewandowski, Bayern probably eased past PSG. I don't rate PSG that highly. But obviously, I didn't see much of this because they were always on at the same time as Chelsea. But when I saw them against Barcelona, I know they won, 4-1 or 4-0 at the Camp Nou. I still don't think they were that great, in all honesty. It was just play the ball to Mbappe and let him run. All right. I mean, that's a tactic if you have a player that great, but that doesn't mean the whole team was great. But what do you make of PSG being in there? Obviously, people will say they're an easier team to beat, which I 100% agree with. You have the negative in terms of stars being written in the sky and that Bayern Munich final. But, what do you make of that, Ian? Is it a positive for us, or did you have a preference for that game?
Well, Man United have beaten PSG this year, I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly. They beat them more recently. So, naturally, you think, well, we drew Man United twice, so we could beat them. I think the Bayern Munich thing would have been a bit of a nightmare, so I probably would have preferred PSG to go through. I think realistically, it's going to be looking like it will be Man City that go through against Dortmund. I just think this has got Chelsea versus Man City final written all over it, and that's what really worries me. Of all the teams that are left in it now,
we'll see after Saturday whether that still worries you.
I still think it will, regardless, because it's a final and it's Pep Guardiola. That's the thing that Man City set out to do, and especially because they'll have the league wrapped up by, about 2 weeks. That's the real question I have.
A 2-week break between the last league game and the Champions League final. So for the final, us playing City won't make a difference whether they have the league wrapped up. For the semi-finals, it will make a difference.
Yeah, but they'll have like 4 weeks off, and we'll have had 2
until we play them. I know we play them now. Yeah, sorry. Go on. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I mean, there is a scenario that we finish with a really tough run in, and then play Leicester or Southampton in the FA Cup final, and then potentially go to a Champions League final as well, which could take a lot out of us. It would take a hell of a lot out of us. And I just think City would pull us apart, especially if they've had 2 weeks worth of rest plus, it could just be a nightmare. So, I as much as that side of the draw, I would actually have preferred Bayern to go through, just because I think Bayern, with how efficient they are and what they've done previously, would have beaten Man City. I just do think that Man City are the best team in Europe at the moment, and I do think they're going to steamroll their way through this. We're all saying, and I know you were speaking earlier, you mentioned it about who I'd want to play of Liverpool and Real Madrid. I would have preferred to play Real Madrid because I hate playing teams from my own country in the Champions League. It's just so much, so much to deal with. And from being a guy in London where there is a lot of Man United fans, I remember losing to Man United in the bloody Champions League final 2008, and every single Man United fan come out of the woodwork, and it was just awful. That'll be the case in the semi-final. If you lose to Liverpool, all the Liverpool fans will come out of the woodwork, and that'll kick off again. And then if we lose in the final to Man City, it would just be awful. It'd be Russian money versus, Saudi money or wherever it is, It's just a horrible dynamic to be in. But yeah, I probably would have preferred PSG to go through in terms of entertainment. But realistically, I think if anyone's going to stop Man City, it would have been Bayern Munich, and obviously they're now out. So yeah, it's a weird scenario.
That's exactly my reasoning for why I would have preferred Bayern as well. I hate both of them with a passion, so I didn't really have I hate you more, I hate you less situation for this tie. But I do think we can beat City, but I do think it's easier to beat Bayern. obviously depending on their injuries a little bit, but they're just much easier to break down. And if we have a solid defense against Bayern, they're so open at the back, I think you can beat them. And City is just a bit more like us, but much better going forward because they don't concede much either. Although they have actually conceded in each of their last 5 or 6 Premier League home games, but still, they're still
they're bloody shit. They are. I tell you, they're awful. That City, they're fucking useless.
Exactly. Like it's a tough one. Yeah, that's why I would have maybe slightly preferred Bayern to win this tie as well. But Pys, what are your thoughts? Did you have any preference between PSG and Bayern, or what do you make of that?
Well, I mean, I do agree with the fact that I think Bayern probably are the only team that stops City. I do agree. I think City will go to the final. It's going to be interesting, obviously, because 2 legs against PSG if they do get through Dortmund, which I think they probably will, unless they completely choke it. But I mean, 2 legs. That's just going to be a shootout against PSG. Whoever scores the most goals, and if Neymar and Mbappe turn up, PSG are going to the final. It's as simple as that. Because the thing is with City, they are so good, but and I know their defense is good, especially Diaz and stuff. But I mean, Man United always beat them. It's funny, isn't it? Like, I don't know. I think they're still there to be got at, and I just think it will be interesting with us on the weekend if we really attack City and we can find a balance between attack and defense. Can we beat them? Because I think we can. But if we play them in a Champions League final, yes. Whoever we play in the Champions League final, if we get there, I'm going to shit myself anyway. Because if it's PSG, they've got Neymar and Mbappe. I do think we can beat PSG, but they've got those 2. And with City, it's City. You know what I mean? I still think they're the better team than us at the moment. So I don't know. We're still underdogs for me. Real Madrid as well are a fantastic team. I just think they have a habit of turning it on in the latter stages of these competitions as well. So I'm very scared if they beat Liverpool tomorrow. I just think they're so amazing on the ball, and there could be a situation where Hazard's coming back from his injury. Is his first good games for Real Madrid going to be against us? I really hate to think that way, but that's what I'm starting to think now. Like, I'm getting a bit scared, to be honest. Now we're getting to the latter stage of the competition, but you know what? When these games roll around, I'll be fully backing us and looking at our positives and looking at the way we can attack whatever team we face. So, but for now, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to be a little bit scared and a bit pessimistic, to be honest, because I just do think the teams left in the competition are better than us overall. I hate to say it, but I just think they are. Maybe in 2 windows when we get positions we need, maybe we get a really quality striker that's ruthless up front. Maybe we get another DM. Maybe we get another centre back. I just think now we're so young. It reminded me of Ajax a little bit, to be honest with you. I don't know. Semi-finals. Do we really have the experience and the quality to beat these big teams? I hope so, but I just don't know, man. I really don't know.
It's definitely a tough one. I mean, we touched on kind of City already, and it's like they still have that second leg to play tomorrow against Dortmund. They only won 2-1 at home. City, Dortmund got that away goal, which could be crucial. You never know. I do still think City will go through, but City have also had a habit of choking in the Champions League. They actually have that habit of bottling it. So I wouldn't be totally shocked if Dortmund somehow make this happen tomorrow. It wouldn't be the biggest surprise of the century to me, if that makes sense. And then it's like what Ian said in terms of the rest ahead of the final. I see that, but whenever I look at us after international breaks, I'm like, we do better when we don't have breaks anyway. So maybe it's for us, it's arguably a positive that we keep in a rhythm. With the types of players we have, but we still have a week off between the last Prem game, the FA Cup, and the Champions League final, which is enough rest unless we pick up extra injuries from those extra games. Obviously, if we pick up a bad injury to a crucial player in the final, that's annoying. But other than that, I don't necessarily see it as such a negative. If we lose it, sure. But if we win the FA Cup, I think that's only a positive going into the Champions League. It takes a bit of pressure off, puts us into more confidence. So you never know. So Saturday will be important. Before Saturday, we don't even know whether we need to think about an FA Cup final. But in terms of the other game that's played tomorrow, Real Madrid-Liverpool, you both have all of us assume that Real Madrid will be the opponent in the semi-final for us. I've said it on numerous occasions for similar reasons to Ian. I prefer to play Real Madrid. Even though I think we're probably more likely to beat Liverpool. I think we can beat both. I think we're more likely to beat Liverpool, but it would just be worse if we don't, if that
Yes.
makes sense. And if we lose, if look at like at the start of the season, I said this to Ian off air before the stream. Bayern Munich are out. We're still in the Champions League. Think back to just over a year ago when we got battered 3-0 at Stamford Bridge for Bayern Munich, and you told them next season you're going to make it further than Bayern Munich in the Champions League. Everyone would have told you you are batshit crazy. But that's the situation we're in right now. So you never know what can happen. But I also tell you this much, and I know it's not necessarily the best way to look at it, but I actually hate finals. I hate them. I hate them with a passion. Like I get so nervous and I get so tense, and I don't know. Obviously we've been to a lot of finals and Chelsea have won a lot of trophies, but we've also lost a lot of finals. So it's like, do you know what I mean? Like I just hate finals. Like if you told me right now we'll get to the final but we'll lose it, I'd much rather lose in the semi-finals. Much rather. I don't care who we play in the final. I'd much rather lose in the semi-finals than lose in the final, because that despair that losing a Champions League final is, I don't like. Obviously, 2008 was an English club, but still, I don't want to relive that again. Like I was, how I was like 12, 13, whatever I was, 11. I was crying my eyes out after Anelka missed that fucking penalty. I don't want to experience that again. I'm a lot older now. I'll still be crying my eyes out. I don't want to be doing that again. So I'd rather lose in the semi-final than lose in the final. But hey, if you win the semi-final, you can also win the final. So it's one of those. It's a tough one.
You need to fucking grow up here, mate. Jesus.
Yeah, but
come on, be fucking ballsy. Come on. You fucking do it.
I get that, but you just told me they would tear us to pieces. You told me that a minute ago.
Yeah, so did Bayern Munich. We still won that game, didn't we?
Aha. So they can tear us to pieces, but we still win anyway.
See, now here's the game plan.
Aha. All right. No, okay, then I agree. Fair enough. Hey, let's see what happens Saturday. It's been a wonderful evening. Although the ratings haven't been crazy high because eventually we lost the game and it wasn't the easiest on the eye, shall we say. We're through to the semi-finals. Let's get a bit of hype going again, because it's been a long time since we could say we're in the last four of the European Cup. You know, it's a good feeling. It's certainly a good feeling, especially when you're playing the Tuesday and you can enjoy the Wednesday Champions League and you're like, come on, bring it on. And it's a good time. It's a good time. You know, maybe we can even laugh at Liverpool fans and that. Maybe, who knows? Maybe we'll be the only English side in the last European four. You never know what Dortmund can do. And to be honest, I'm hoping and praying Dortmund do that tomorrow, because I think we can comfortably beat PSG and Dortmund in the final. So you never know. If Dortmund do a madness tomorrow, one of PSG and Dortmund could see us in the final, and then I'd be a lot more positive than if it's Man City. You never know. So Erling Haaland, give us a sign-on present before you join us in the summer. Knock City out tomorrow. So, you know, we'll all be great friends. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave it here. It's been a wonderful stream. It's been a wonderful evening. I really do appreciate every single one of you that has tuned in. We still have over 200 people watching, so big ups to all of you guys. Like I said already a couple of times, be sure to subscribe. Let's hit 10,000 subscribers as soon as we possibly can. Smash that like button. Let me see how many we have. I know we hit the 100 likes, but let's get even more. Come on, guys. We still have over 200 people. Let's get 150 likes if we can, even though we're still 41 of that off. As many as possible. So make sure you smash the like button right now. Of course, check out Ian's channel, Craigo28 Football, down in the description below. Check out his channel. He does wonderful videos, reaction videos to Chelsea games, takes the piss out of opposition fans when they bottle it, which I'm a big fan of. And of course, check out Pys on Twitter. His link is, as always, down in the description. But yeah, at the end of the day, all we can say is Chelsea is in the last four of Europe, into the Champions League semi-finals. What a day, what a time to be alive. Up to Chelsea, upwards and onwards, and I'll see you. Wait. Next time.